I live on a 4-lane street. Limit is 30, people drive anywhere between 60 and 75. People kept hitting my mailbox, so I took a big piece of 2.5-inch steel pipe, welded a rectangle on top, and put my mailbox on that. Then I poured a ton of cement in the hole and mounted the big steel stand. It had to weigh 40 pounds. A car smashes into it and literally pushes the front of their cart in. I was working in the yard when I heard it. Just smash. And I look in mailbox and poster 100% fine and their car front is smoking. They back away and drive off pretty quick. I'm not sure if this posted before or not. I used to live in this quaint neighborhood in the middle of nowhere. I had this neighbor, Gene. Gene was a couple years younger than me. We never got along that well. He was always mean to me and bullied me. When I was about 9, my mom and I had just come home after grocery shopping. But we had just had a fight, so I ran out of the car to the fields. Gene saw me crying and we had some kind of argument. Somehow he attacked me and shoved my face into the snow that was by the back road. Now I lived close to the mountains, so there was always a lot of snow in the winter. He forced my head down. I begged him to let me back up, but he wouldn't. I ended up having trouble breathing. Now, you might think it's just snow, but I had really bad asthma as a kid, always in the hospital. I tried to tell him I couldn't breathe, but he ignored me. Suddenly my mom comes running and screams at him to get off of me. He runs home to his parents. My mom takes me straight to their house, and explains furiously to the parents what happened. They didn't really do anything, but I stayed away from him after that. Gene, let's not meet again. Long-time lurker, and first-time poster to this sub. I just so happened to recall one of my own malicious compliance from a few years back. I was walking home from work, having just gotten off at the bus stop half a block up the road. My daily route cut across this large open field next to my neighborhood. This day was different though, but I didn't realize it right at that moment. I hadn't gotten very far onto that field before I had someone yelling at me to stop. I turned to the sound, and saw a security guard running up to me. "Security guard, you cannot enter here, buddy." Me, why? Security guard, it's a construction site. I glance around the area. What amounted to a construction site was still an open field. They had put up a fence around it, but there was a large gap in it where I had blindly walked, though, and another on the far end of the desire path. Aside from the fence and the security guard's truck parked off to the side, there was nothing to indicate that this was anything more than the same old grassy field. I tried to explain that I just wanted to use crossover to the other side, but the security guard would have none of it, finally saying that not allowed on a construction site without a hard hat, as he tapped the one he wore to indicate what he meant. At that moment I probably had the biggest shit-eating grin on my face. I slipped off my backpack and pulled out my own hard hat. Then for good measure I also grabbed my visvest, which was at the bottom past my work duds, and then did the toe point gesture to show off the CSA green triangle that was on the tongue of my sneakers, which indicated that they were work-approved steel-toed shoes. I didn't spare the guard another look, as I picked up my backpack and carried on down the path, and for the guard's part he didn't say anything further. I was apprenticing as a commercial pipe fitter at the time. XD. This was nearly 10 years ago, yet I still look back and chuckle. I was working 3 jobs and going to school at night, and he was working part-time for one. While I had cancer, he lost 100 pounds with extreme dieting, eating less than 500 calories a day, because he said that he was sick of me getting all the attention. We were divorced near the end of January, which meant we were married for all of the prior year. We filed for a cheap divorce since we didn't have any shared money, things, or children, so nothing was stated on how to file our taxes. In March, he called and said that his tax guy had figured out that if he filed his taxes as single then he owed over $2,000, and if I filed my taxes single then I was paid $400, however if we filed jointly then we'd be paid $450. He offered that if we did so, then he would pay the tax guy for his services and keep the $50 profit. At this point, my dad did my taxes for me for free, so there was absolutely nothing in it for me. I just said no and filed separately that afternoon. This happened a few years ago, but I thought you might appreciate it. I was working for a popular coffee company, no, not Starbucks, and working the drive-thru. As I am handing out coffee and things to eat, I hear in my headset that someone is coming through and just wants black coffee but in his thermos. Now I waited for him to pull up past exactly where he wanted it filled to and filled it. He then got mad because it came up into the cap just a bit. Well, I got my manager, who was hanging close by due to this guy and causing a problem all the time, and she told him she heard what he said and I had done it correctly. He didn't like that answer, Took the cap off and threw his entire thermos full of hot coffee at he back. Well, because I was the one at the drive-thru, it hit me instead of her and I had to go home and to the drive. Update: I see the question, why didn't I call the cops a lot? I didn't because I didn't know to. In my mind everybody takes some shoot at work. Now I know different. Update 2, this blew up. Thanks to everyone who was concerned and for the award. This happened to me today. I usually can't say it on my work, at a supermarket, because some customers can be very grumpy, but this time I wasn't working. I was shopping on a supermarket when a middle-aged man approached me and asked, "Sorry son, do you know where the eggs are?" I replied, "Usually between the legs." The man looked at me for a moment and then he laughed very hard. I smiled and told him that I didn't work there, but I saw someone stocking them. Sometimes a "I don't work here" moment can be funny for the other person too. I was at Walmart about 2 weeks ago, shopping with family. I was wearing black and red flannel and black pants. Nothing I wore was like a Walmart employee. I was roaming the store when an older man began talking to me. Took me a second to realize he was speaking to me. "Man, where are the birthday cards?" Me, "Excuse me?" "Man, where are the birthday cards? I've been coming here for 25 years and I can't find them." I pointed towards the direction of the home office section. Me, "Over there is my best guess." Man, "Well, the other guy said they'd be over here." Now I was in front of electronics, so they wouldn't be over here. Me, "I don't know sir. Home office is where I'd look. I can try and help you find them." The man paused and looked at me again. Man, "Oh, you don't work here. Thank you for trying." Me, "Yep." I gave him a casual salute and went on my way. I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years, but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. Back in 2005, we did some random work, a real estate type business. 4 PCs plus central file/app server, and they use their ISP for email. After doing a few fairly routine jobs, slow computer, can't print, that kind of thing, we worked out that they had 0 backups, and no backup solution/plan. Being a fairly responsible person, I let them know this, and they really should do something about it. I was just fobbed off at the time. I even prepped a quote for 3 external drives and some basic scripting to handle their simple backup needs. We're talking sub $500 Australian here. Emailed with a note explaining what it is, how they could keep a drive off-site, and why it's a really good idea to substantially reduce the chance of disaster. Again, fobbed off. I'm guessing they really didn't want to pay for something they didn't need. You can probably see where this is going. The inevitable happens. The single hard drive in their server fails. After the usual "how could you let this happen," I point out how I mentioned this to them, and show them the aforementioned email. 15 years later, and can remember what the owner of this company said to me next. "You should have insisted we need it." I'm actually surprised this actually happens in the real world. I'm at Target with my family shopping around the baby section when I turn around and nearly run into a lady that happened to be behind me. I mutter a quick "oop, my bad," and scurry away. Yeah, I actually scurried because I'm a bit awkward when it comes to inconveniencing strangers, so I wanted to get out as quickly as possible while taking up the least amount of space. Mind you, I'm wearing a black tank top and booty shorts, definitely not red shirt and khakis. Well, the lady I bumped into asks me where some product is and I just stare at her before saying "I'm sorry. I don't work here," and she says, "Oh, you don't work here?" before walking away. So she thought someone without the uniform, that literally ran away from her, was an employee? Nothing crazy or mind-blowingly exciting. Just confusing. CO on USS First Boat SSN_ had personalized license plates on his vehicles. One said CO___ with our whole number and the other had the ship name. During CPO initiation the words "no balls" and CO's license plates were put into the same sentence. He found out his plates were missing when his wife was pulled over by base police for not having plates on her vehicle. This was the second time he lost his mind. It might have also been the beginning of his ulcers. Rumor has it that they ended up in Kuwait and photos of his plates on the back of various USMC vehicles were received in the mail months later. Can't confirm or deny, of course. My neighbor's backyard abuts my backyard. They keep to themselves, and we've never really met them. They were only interested in meeting my next-door neighbor when he had a teenage daughter living at home that they invited to the pool. Whatever. They love to blast country music outside on their pool deck. I don't begrudge a man his music, but maybe turn it off when you go inside? So one day, I'm out on the patio, and their music is louder than usual and more annoying than usual, so I haul out my outdoor Bluetooth speaker that I use for parties and start my own jam session with 90s OO's punk. As loud as I can handle. After 2 hours their music is off. It's been 6 weeks and I haven't heard the music again. I might not be posting in the right place, but I figured I'd try. I've worked in the restaurant industry before, hostess then server. So I kind of know the biz a little bit. I guess I'm just wondering if there's anything I should know. Do I drive my own car? It is okay that I'd be a pizza delivery girl instead of guy? Is there a particular way to drive with the pizza? Is there any extra precautions to keep myself safe? Honestly, my biggest worry. Just general tips would be appreciated. I'm also a bit of a nervous driver, but I'm thinking this will help me overcome it by doing it so often. We have a fairly bare-bones pre-packaged breakfast currently because of COVID. Now normally it's a modest hot breakfast and there's someone handling it besides me, but I digress. Mr. Blueshirt comes down and asks if breakfast is ready and I reply yes. He proceeds to get a cup of coffee and as I'm sitting down asks for the remote. Now here we just keep it on CNN. I know some people don't like them, but it's supposed to be according to the rules. One coworker changes it to the Weather Channel, but again, I digress. I explain that we don't change the channel and it's on there because it's our rules. He stares at me for a solid 15 seconds and replies that he won't be back and he walks away. Alrighty then. Moments later in my camera I see him fiddling with the buttons on the TV and trying to change the channel. Tough luck. It's all HDMI stuff and you need the remote to do anything. Now it's just static. I walk over and say please do not touch the TV and he says he doesn't appreciate that. I then retrieve the remote from the back and correct everything. I tell him he's more than welcome to bring his single cup of coffee to his room and watch whatever he likes. He replies I'm well aware and proceeds to have his coffee and look at his phone for the next half hour as I'm writing this. 2 nights ago, our GM had a hard meeting, in which he thanked them for not leaving during this whole current situation. He approved for all drinks that were within 1 week of expiry to be consumed free of charge that night. As one of the duty managers, I watched over the desk whilst popping my head to the meeting/party every now and again. After a couple of hours, the GM had already left. My manager came down, holding a very drunk financial controller. He shoved him into a cab and waved goodbye, whilst also being quite drunk. He came to me and said that he had to go to the toilet, and will be back to call an Uber. That was the last I saw of him that night. He left his belongings in the office and just disappeared. I searched all over the property, and could not find him. I was worried. But not that worried that I wanted to stay behind to look for him after my shift. Yesterday, I get a call from him, asking me to come to work an hour early, as he is feeling unwell, obvious hangover, and would like to go home early. I agreed. As I arrive, the whole team is there and he lights up. He thanks everyone for being understanding with the reduced shifts. Once that was over, he hands me a box with a pair of business shoes inside. I'm not poor, I have a pair of R.M. Williams that are in very good condition. So this was kinda weird. He then told me that he fell asleep in one of the conference rooms, and then decided to go into an empty room for the night. We had a laugh. DL, drive. Boss disappeared after having drinks. Reappeared the next day with new shoes for me. In the late 70s and early 80s, I worked at an electronics store that was everywhere. At this time I was working in a rather large mall. A few of things for the youngsters. 1. Malls used to be the place to be, until online shopping showed up. 2. Most male retail workers wore a dress shirt and tie. 3. When you worked in a mall, you spent your break in the mall. Everything you needed was right there, so no sense in going anywhere else. One day when I was on my lunch break, I decided to wander through one of the large department stores to kill time. As I'm looking at something interesting, clearly can't remember what it was, a woman approached me and asked me a question about a product. Remember, most male mall employees wore the same thing no matter which store you worked at. So, I was accustomed to saying, "I'm sorry, I don't work here." I'll never forget her response. She gave me an indignant look and said in an annoyed voice, "Then why are you dressed that way?" and walked away. I stood there for about a minute taking in what just happened and trying to figure out what I could have done wrong. Then I decided to go back to work. That's about as confrontational as it got back then. No TD, LR because those are stupid. Had a guest staying on employees go exploring rate last night. It's basically about half of what our walk-in rate was today. There are rules for traveling on this rate. First of all, if we need to walk someone because of overbooking, this rate type person will be at the front of the line. If we are short room types, this person gets whatever we have available. If we are super booked, the employee rate person is going to get a room with a crappy view. And this is where our story begins. A guest calls without identifying himself or his room, and just asks, "Do you have a room available on the 19th floor?" I check our PMS. "No, I'm sorry, we are very full. We don't have any rooms available on the 19th floor. He says, "What is the highest floor you have available? I want to change rooms for tonight." My spidey senses are tingling now because he has not mentioned any issues. Me, "May I have your room number please so that I can pull up your reservation?" Him, "Room 12345, actually it was a room halfway up the tower but with no view." I see that he is traveling on employee rate. Me, "Sir, is there a problem with your room?" Him, "Yes, my view is of a wall. I want the best room view you have available. Also I booked a king and you gave me 2 doubles. I want a king." Me, "I am sorry sir, but as you are traveling on employee rate the room choice is up to the hotel and we are very full. I cannot move you because of your view." Him, "Then I will just check out and check back in." Me, "Sir, that would be an abuse of the employee rate. If you did that you would be forcing our housekeeping to clean another room today, so we will have it back for tonight. If you do that my managers may report it back to your hotel." Him, seeming to backtrack, "I didn't say I was going to do it, I was just asking." Me, "Okay, is there anything else I can help you with at this time?" Him, "No." Fast forward a few hours and the next guest in line walks up to check in. I ask what name the reservation is under. It is the entitled employee rate guy. He checked out and made a new reservation. He is acting like I have no idea who he is, and maybe he doesn't realize that I am the one he talked to. At this point I am so tempted to search the system for the crappiest room I can find so that his new check-in is a downgrade, but I resist. I put him in a room with a street view but on a lower floor than his previous room. Still doubles instead of a king. This is as generous as I am going to get considering he just gave housekeeping an extra 40 minutes of work, because of extra COVID cleaning regulations. His face definitely fell when he realized he didn't get what he wanted. When he looked at me I could tell he wanted to complain, but he wisely kept his mouth shut. I was going to report him to management, but was exhausted by end of shift, and it slipped my mind. We've been told by the government to use common sense, but as predicted, the streets were full of crowds of drunks and I think I saw a video predicting that it will be as bad as New Year's Eve. The government are very deliberate in their after herd immunity, hence our delayed entry into lockdown. I know this is all out of my control, but I thought I'd just express how goddarn scary it is now that hospitality is opening up. Thinking of those of you in pubs, I hope your first shifts weren't as bad as some of the videos I've seen. I'll be wearing PPE when I go back to work, so there's that. I really wish I had a choice of not working because it's just really scary. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. So I work for a call center in the collections department. I get insulted almost hourly but I've learned to not let it ruin my day. However, I got sick not too long ago and spent more than a month off work. When I returned to work I just felt I didn't have the same patience as before and customers exasperated me. This lady calls and says her balance is wrong, so I asked her why she thought so and said she checked her online account and it said next bill due on July 4th, so she thought she had paid for June already even when she didn't make a payment last month. I calmly explained this to her and she goes off and starts calling me names and saying how inept I am and that I need to fix her bill. I politely told her that her bill was correct and that she needed to learn reading comprehension skills apparently, and she hung up. I finished my shift and sent my immediate resignation by email yesterday. I felt so liberated. No longer do I need to deal with the constant insults, the outrageous goals and the changes of procedure every day. The call center life was wreaking havoc with my control over my anxiety and I'm happy I got out of there. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the imps got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. This story took place a while ago when my dad was young. My dad worked at a movie theater for a long time and loved it. My dad was working with one of his coworkers at the popcorn area of the theater. Dumb and Dumber had started screening, so the theater was packed. One particular person came to buy popcorn and came and asked my dad's coworker to make sure his popcorn had extra butter. As my dad's coworker made the popcorn, the man made sure to keep obnoxiously telling my dad's coworker to make sure he had extra butter. The coworker put extra butter as the man had requested so many times, and the man left. Around the midpoint was when the man came back. He told my dad's coworker that this doesn't have extra butter after having the popcorn for half the movie. This really angered my dad's co-worker, so when he went to remake the man's popcorn, he kept pumping and pumping lots and lots of butter into the popcorn. A bit later they find out from the man that there was so much butter that it melted through the popcorn container and splattered onto the man and his clothes. I don't know what happened to my dad's co-worker after that, but I do know they had a good laugh. There's this girl in my foyer who, for all intents and purposes, is really idioty to some while really nice to others. I'd chalk it to up racism, as our foyer has 51 nationalities and she, 22F French, doesn't seem to talk to the Indians, aka me. The walls in our foyer are paper thin, which is why, when I do vocal exercises, I make sure it's before 8 p.m. and that I don't do it for more than 15 minutes. I also try singing as softly as I can, but my voice spills over in the corridors. Yes, the walls are that thin. Since it's common to be disturbed by the noise, people post on our WhatsApp group to keep it down, whether it's a party, someone talking too loudly, etc. She pretty much does the same. He politely asks people to keep it down. With me, however, she posted an Insta story after recording my door with the caption, "What is this, shoot?" It irked me, naturally. But remember how I said she was an idiot? COVID-19 spread through France like wildfire, but the student institutions in my town were being very careful. She had come back from traveling to a high-risk country, and our residents offered her a separate apartment to quarantine herself and even offered to do her shopping for her. She said no. She continued using the common toilets in the kitchen. She hugged people. She went to bars. And bragged to her friends about how she turned down quarantine. Naturally, her friends were upset with her and told me about it. I was wary of her, but I knew she'd get really shunned if I'd tell people about what she did, so I'd informed my close friends and those on our floor to maintain social distancing because someone on our floor was exposed, and left it at that. I didn't reveal names. However, in that week, my dad fell grievously ill and I had to return to India, only to realize that I was possibly exposed and would put my dad at risk if I met him. He was in the ICU and was extremely sick. I traveled back to India and quarantined myself. I needed to be home, and hopefully, I'd get to see Dad once he got better. Or be there for Mom if he didn't. During that time, I'd posted on our WhatsApp group about how there are people not respecting the quarantine and are spreading this virus like wildfire. I'd also talked about how I couldn't see my sick dad because of all of this and encouraged people to respect the confinement. Naturally, people messaged me with messages of courage, etc., and asked who the person was. I dropped her name everywhere. I didn't care if she would be shunned or not. Shoot just got real with me, and I wish I'd done it earlier. Everyone stopped talking to her and literally avoided her like the plague. She left the foyer in a month. DL, doctor, girl did not respect quarantine. I ratted her out and she moved out. So, a recent day passed and I'd like to wish a happy belated Independence Day to my American readers. To everyone else, happy belated Saturday. I was at work at the 7-Eleven, when I had a customer come in. This lady has a look at our stock, then asks me if we have any 4th of July stuff for sale. It took all of my willpower not to inform her that no, I work at a Canadian store, not an American one. I just looked at her and said no. She gave me this look like I'm an idiot, then marched out of the store. So a bit of backstory. I live in a city in Ontario, Canada. I was attending university for science and it was currently the end of the semester, so no more classes, just exams. I had to go to one of the science buildings at the school to drop something off to a professor I was doing work on the side for. The science building was one of the separate buildings from the main university center. The school was empty. No students anywhere since exams were going on and classes were done. I decided to go in the side entrance to the building since it was closer to the parking lot. As I approached the side entrance door, I see a man, maybe 40 years old, with glasses, shoulder-length brown greasy hair and a blue jean jacket standing against the wall by the door. I walk up to the door, smile at him and he just looks at me with this dreadful straight face and dead eyes. It was like looking into something but not a person. He just seemed very out of place. And #X200B. As soon as I walk in the door he turns behind me to walk inside as well. I start walking down the hallway and Hess following me. I can hear him. I start walking faster and so does he. I make the turns down various hallways to get where I need to go and Hess literally right behind me. I start running. He starts to run as well but I outrun him and take a sharp corner and run into the first room I see which had some students working studying in it. And #X200B. I tell them I'm being followed and they peek their head out of the room to check and see where the guy went. They come back in the room and say he looked really angry and was looking in the male/female bathrooms and the other empty classrooms he was peeking his head into. I was so scared. And #X200B. 15 minutes after he actually left the hallway apparently. I had the other students walk me to my car and I drove home. I called campus security when I got home and told them about the experience. Sure enough, they had him on camera literally chasing me down the hallways. There was a notice put out for students to watch out for that man. And #X200B. I really wonder what he wanted. I think maybe he would have tried to steal my backpack? Or worse. One of the most scariest experiences in my life. So, creepy man on campus, let's not ever meet. A few minutes after I started my shift at 9 a.m. a guy comes up to the front desk out of breath and a bit jittery with two very large hard shell suitcases and another bag. He drops them and says he'll be right back. Okay. That's a lot of stuff for one guy. And he comes with a safe. Not a little fireproof box or anything like that. This safe was at least 2 feet square, maybe bigger. It was heavy as he was struggling as he carried it. He says he is here to check in. At 9 a.m. with no reservation. And something was definitely way off about him. I told him that it was too early to check in and I would probably have some rooms with doubles available by check-in time which was 4 p.m. He seemed amazed that I wasn't going to check him in. He told me that the guy that dropped him off didn't tell him that he couldn't check in. I have no idea who dropped him off as he just appeared, but we don't have shuttles or drivers so it had nothing to do with the hotel. He asked if he could just hang out in the lobby until check-in time. No. I am not having him in the lobby for the next 7 hours. I told him that if he did make a reservation for tonight that I could hold his bags for him until check-in time, not the safe though. Now I can't make reservations directly at the hotel unless it is a walk-in and I am checking them in right then and there. He would have needed to book over the phone or online. We don't get to that point though. He pulls out a really thick wad of cash. I let him know that he will need a credit card or bank-issued debit card to check in. He pulls out one of those non-reloadable gift cards with a Visa logo. It says gift card in big letters across the front and of course has no name on it. No sir, that is a gift card. He goes off that he doesn't think it's right that we won't accept his cash payment without a card because cash is legal tender. Told him sorry, but I cannot. He asks me what he is supposed to do then. I don't know. I guess you could try the Schmoliday Inn down the street, but I don't know if they will check you in the morning or without a credit card. He says he will call for a ride down there. I ask him to move his bags and his safe away from the front desk as I have guests coming down to check out. I told him he could stay in the lobby while he calls for a ride but then he will need to head out. About half an hour later I notice he is gone. I have no idea what was up with him but he was definitely one of the oddest fellas I have encountered. I work for a merchandising company inside of Walmart. This happened to me the other day. Me, taking a picture of a display. Female customer, can you tell me where to find the cream for when you have a niche down there, you know where, flushed face. Me, first of all, 6 social distancing, as I step back. I don't actually work for Walmart, but what you are looking for is on THS back wall. Customer, well can you come show me? I don't know how to read. Me, again stepping away from her, I do not work for Walmart. Customer, I can't believe you won't help me. As she walks away. 5 minutes pass, and here she comes again, right up to my side. Customer, is this what I need? Me, stepping away for the 3rd time, I still don't work here, but yes. That's a good start. Lord help me. As required when telling a military story, here's the obligatory no-shoot. There I was, the private had just lost the fist. If you have no idea what the fist is or its significance, You need to stop and go read The Legend and Adventures of the Fist. Picking up where I left off, the private lost the fist. He's the private, drawled out his prayed for fun, because he was the only member of our unit who couldn't make the automatic promotions up to specialist because he couldn't pass a PT test. Which we eventually kicked him out for, but not before I became his team leader and had to run a PT test with him monthly because his failure to prepare is clearly my failure of leadership. In spite of developmental and negative counselings, apps I helped him download to track workouts and food, phone calls and informal counselings, at one point there was a Google Doc to track workouts. But I'm not bitter. Anyway, bottom line, the fist was no more. It was the end of an era. By this time some original members of the platoon have gotten out or transferred to other units. I took a promotion outside the unit and transferred back. It was a letdown to lose the fist copyright registered TM. But then, we got a warno that we'd be going as a unit back to Fort McCoy. Excellent. We got there and I already knew I needed to make a pilgrimage to the source of endless shenanigans, the mega sex shop where I'd bought the fist copyright registered DM originally, but then we were confined to the base. Nobody on or off, and as much as I tried, and as much as I could tell that my chain of command actually thought it was poetically hilarious to make my holy pilgrimage to replace the fist copyright registered TM, I couldn't snag one of our assigned vehicles to sneak off post. I wish I could say I pulled some soldier Jedi mind trick to get off post, but the truth is they gave us one night to go out on the town for dinner. Which I did. After I made a small stop just a few Ku 40 GH miles away. I walked in straight to the Holy of Holies and saw it. It turns out that there was a brand new version of the fist copyright registered TM. An improved version. A version that was clearly meant to be the upgraded, advanced version. It was an actual fist. Same material, same size, but in the shape of a fist instead of a sexually perverted Italian, and somehow more intimidating. So naturally I bought the Fist 2.0 copyright registered TM. We got it back to the base without incident. It was used for many more pranks for a few more years until our unit was dissolved. By that time there was only one remaining original member of 2nd Platoon who became the custodian of the Fist 2.0 copyright registered TM, and since we were 12B combat engineers he did the only logical thing, he took it to the next demolitions qualification, strapped it on to an explosive charge, clean up your minds you animals, and blew the Fist 2.0 copyright registered TM to pieces. And that's the story of the Fist 2.0 copyright registered TM. Just to clarify, this happened pre-COVID. I travel a lot for work, and often use rental cars when in different states. I am in a city for 2 or 3 days for a conference and request a non-smoking car. As I'm driving it around, I notice the faint smell of smoke. Whatever, I'll just mention it to the rental company so they don't think I did it. The last night I'm there, a co-worker invites me out for Jamaican food. I agree, and express I've never had it and I'm excited. He just laughed and said make sure you head back to your hotel pretty quickly after. Got oxtail and some spicy beef patties, and went back to the hotel. No events took place. I wake up the next morning to go to the airport and I am full on sweating and passing gas like never before. It was so bad that my nostrils could barely handle it. I pull into the rental car place and am talking to the woman at the counter. She asks the classic, was everything okay with the rental? This is where I flipped up. I told her about the smoke smell and she apologizes and says she'll be right back. To my horror, she steps around the counter, walks over to the car and sticks her head in and takes a big whiff. She whipped her head around with this disgusted look on her face and screams, "That's not smoke." I apologized profusely, but she didn't even look at me. After getting through security I called my brother and told him what I did, and now it is a famous holiday story that never seems to die. TLDR, I ate bad Jamaican food for dinner. Upon returning the car I had the meat sweats and basically made a car stink bomb. Told the woman that the car smelt like smoke, non-smoking car, to which she stuck her whole head in the door and took a nice large whiff of Jamaican leftovers. So this might get solved quickly by one of you, but I can't solve it. So a few days ago I was reading this article, Whipping Tom. The main photo shows a picture of Whipping Tom and skipping loan. I googled skipping loan but no information pops up aside from the Wikipedia page I just linked to. I've tried searching for skipping Joan and nothing has came up for that again besides the linked Wikipedia article. This one is really bothering me. I've tried searching skipping loan 1692 and again get nothing. I'm hoping someone with better searching skills can crack this one for me. I get that she is the page next to Skipping Tom in the book that they took Skipping Tom's picture from, but why not just crop it out if she isn't significant in any way at all? Who is she? Why does no information on her come up? Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. A few days ago I, 20F, ordered a sex toy online. It was set to arrive today, and when I got the notification that the package was in my mailbox, I went out to go get it, but it wasn't there. I went inside and told my mom, yes, I still live with my parents, mostly BC of COVID, that my package wasn't in the mailbox where it was supposed to be. I thought it got stolen. Apparently not, because my mom looked at me and laughed, and could barely tell me that it did arrive. I asked her, did you open it up thinking it was for you or something? She told me no. But my dad did. And that he handled it pretty well. Thankfully I didn't have to explain my purchase to him, as I am an adult. DL, Dr. Tifu by ordering a sex toy online and didn't tell my dad that I was expecting a package. This happened a while ago, but I have one of those heavy enameled cast iron pots with a heavy lid. It's great. It cleans easily, it cooks evenly, it holds enough for a big family. Perfect for making a big shrimp curry. So I cooked a big shrimp curry in this pot. It was awesome. And there was a lot of it, so we had leftovers. Whatever. Clean up the kitchen, go to bed, live life for the rest of the week. Until I went to cook something else in the big pan and realized that I had left the leftover shrimp curry in the pan on the stove for a week. Impressive that you couldn't smell it through the heavy lid, but good God, the stench. It was horrifying, nauseating, and embarrassing. You haven't lived till you've smelled week-old unrefrigerated shrimp curry. So the moral of the story is, if you have one of those high-quality cast iron pots, the lid will keep the bad smells in very well. Use this information responsibly. DL, Doctor, I forgot to clean the pot and left shrimp sitting out of the refrigerator for a week. It smelled bad. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby, so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. You get the idea. I am on mobile and all the good stuff. Okay, quick rant about my coworker named Douche, not his real name for privacy's sake. He is like a group member that will not even do half of the work but put his name on it and just be done with it. He constantly leaves me outside getting carts on the heat while he just takes a stroll inside the store, From what I heard he said eat my other coworkers' lunches from the fridge, and yeah, his attitude is kind of rude, but yeah, that's my quick rant about him. And oh yeah, I had to keep an eye on him like a parent keeping an eye on their kid to make sure that their kids don't stick a fork in an electrical outlet. I've returned full-time to my restaurant job, and several times a night, guests are still reaching out and grabbing me. It always made me cringe before Corona, but now it's like, what the flip are you thinking? I've reacted a few times with I need to keep my distance from you in order to respect social distancing. Please respect these boundaries by doing the same for me, and I'm always met with eye rolls and sometimes even arguments. Just what is the issue here, folks? I'm taking a risk here by working because I need money to survive, but these people are dining out 7 days a week and touching strangers? What don't these guests understand? Bonus psychopath. Last night, a woman cursed at me for refusing her entry to the building. She didn't have a mask, and masks are required in our county, then made a point of coughing in my face before leaving. Lobby is by appointment only right now, and I am trying to squeeze as many people in as possible between all my scheduled appointments, especially if they are fraud cases that need to be taken care of ASAP. I had 3 old men come in today back to back with big fraud cases, and I just can't believe they can be this stupid. None were super old and all 3 knew what they were doing was wrong. I just can't anymore. This pandemic is making people stupider by the moment. 2 of them didn't want to wear masks even though it is a statewide mandate. The worst one was a guy who came in yesterday and lied to us that he needed $20,000 in cash to buy a car. Teller gave him the cash because he was throwing a fit, screaming he wanted to talk to the manager. He is going to call the president of the bank, blah, 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 you know the type. He bought $6,000 in gift cards at 2 local stores and tried to buy $8,000 at the third, and they refused and told him it was fraud. Made him call the bank immediately and report it. Had sent them pics of the cards, so he is out $12,000, and after being rude to us about getting his cash, he had to eat crow when I told him this was exactly why we don't give out this kind of cash, that I can't help him get his cash back, needed new accounts etc., and that risk may bar him from having further accounts with us. I wanted to say that Karma was an idiot, but after we all had an awful week and he is out so much money, I decided it wouldn't do anything to help the situation. Both other fraud cases today follow the same pattern, so be careful out there. So, today was supposed to be my first day back at work. I told my bosses that I wanted to come back if I didn't have to serve. I'm also trained for Togo and hosting, and I would just rather not have to rely on tips. Tips weren't good before COVID, like seriously I'd make maybe 20 working a double, and I just don't want to deal with it now as I've heard tips are even more sparse. They said that was fine, I could do Togo and hosting. So I show up today with no book and no apron because I'm under the impression that I won't be serving. Lo and behold, I'm on the floor chart. So I left. I told the shift lead and the other servers, who I'm all friends with, and they were okay with it. I decided to go back tonight and speak to another manager about what we had discussed and be prepared to serve tonight if they need me. But if they can't accommodate what we agreed upon, I wanted to find something else. So, Ida for leaving/not wanting so serve? At my last job, and now in my current job, I would have these mandatory performance reviews that include my performance goals for the upcoming year. When I sign up for these, it's with the express purpose of preparing for a merit increase at the end of the period. This never happened in my last job because they were always making bad decisions that left them scrambling to make ends meet, much less try to give people pay raises. In my new job, of course, there's been an impact from COVID, so I was told there would be no merit increases this year because there's no money available. Okay, I get it, and it's fine because I wasn't eligible this time around anyway, but for next year, they're already saying no raises at the end of this year, but they still want us to do the performance reviews and goal setting. Of course you want your workforce to continue to improve and to meet the demands of the job, but I'm doing that. I just get a kind of minor issue with putting in the effort to do the performance review, but with no payoff from me in it. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way. In my last job, it was completely pointless because no one even cared, not the employees, the bosses, or the managers. It was just a box you had to check, but here, it's like you're supposed to be all chipper about it like it's going to mean something. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine, go duck yourself then, which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of you 11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Several years back I was in search of a new car and my roommate and bestest friend offered to help me look. We dedicated a whole day to driving around to different dealerships for test drives while she looked up reviews and helped calculate monthly payments. I'm still convinced she is an angel on earth and I love her so much. Towards the end of the day we decide to hit up one last dealership before calling it a night. It was getting kinda late, around 8 or 9. The dealership closed at 10. We stopped in to look around outside since we didn't want to bother them so late for a test drive. I was young, and just wanted to see what cars were within budget for me. Out comes an old man who asked if he could help. I told him we were just looking at the prices to get an idea of what they had. He started his sales pitch and offered a test drive for the cheapest style they had. I said sure, we'll be quick since you're closing soon. This dealership was on a busy road, 60 miles per hour speed limit with several exits from the freeway emptying onto it. We get in the car and try to get up to speed, and it was the slowest crawl to the speed limit you can imagine. One of the reviews she read said driving it felt like pushing a spoon into softened butter, and that is very accurate. Soft and non-responsive. It struggled worse than my busted car to get up to a healthy speed. After pushing the pedal down to the floor trying avoiding getting run over by oncoming traffic, we agreed this car was not for me. We loop around and are back within 10 minutes. The old man is nowhere to be found so I return the keys to a younger guy inside. He asked me how it was, if I liked it, etc. I told him it just wasn't what I was looking for but that we could come back tomorrow to try other options. Out pops the old man who starts offering other cars well outside of my price range. I apologized and told him we might have to look somewhere else. That's when the older guy takes the key from his coworker and proceeds to shove it into his ear, moving it around like it was a Q-tip working on a good chunk of earwax. My friend and I stood, mouths open in surprise, trying so hard not to laugh. The older man keeps talking about finance options, and that maybe I'd like to try a manual instead of an automatic, all the while he's going to town on his ear. The younger guy, seeing this, reacts in no way. Either this is not odd behavior for him, or his years in sales had jaded him beyond all words. We thanked them for their time and wished them a good night. We said nothing to each other until we were on the road again, and then the laughter erupted. To this day it's a running joke between us. We chose a dealership closer to our house to get my new car. 3 years ago, when I worked FD, I had to cover nights on an occasion. Worth knowing that the city this takes place in is 10 miles away from the coast. A guest called reception at 7 a.m. Hello. Maybe I'm still drunk, but my friends and I are getting on a ship today at 7:45 and I wanted to check if they're going to pick us up on time. Me. You're expecting a taxi to take you to the ship at 7:45. Guest, no. The ship should come and get us at 7:45. Me, at the hotel? Guest, yes. Silence. Okay. I think I'm still drunk. Good night. I finished my shift 30 minutes later and never knew what happened, but I hope for him and his friends they got the time wrong or I don't see them getting on the ship in time. Throwaway for obvious reasons. And kind of a long story so TLDR at the end. Like the title says, I'm falling for a girl I play video games with. To start out with, I met a guy in CSGO about 3 months ago and friended him because he was cool. We didn't play together until about 2 months later where he randomly invites me, so we played together. He invites me to his Discord server and we've played together basically every day since then. And here's where it gets interesting. Naturally I start getting to know the people he plays with since we play together. One of them who we play with the most is a year apart from me and is female. At first I didn't have any feelings towards her, then as time goes on and we play more together and we get more comfortable with each other, her sense of humor and personality starts to make me have feelings for her. And as you can see from the title, this is a flip up because I have a girlfriend but can't stop these feelings I'm feeling. I feel really bad because my GF and I have been dating for 1.5 years. I definitely love her but I can't stop what's happening now. I just wanted to get this off my chest and see what internet strangers have to say about it. TL Doctor basically what the title says. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stairs. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. Hi everyone, this morning was pretty eventful, we were almost a full house. We had kids running around the hotel with no parental guidance. We had a couple whom I checked in yesterday and let them know pretty clear. Grab and go breakfast, coffee is in rooms, and no housekeeping. Well, the same people tried coming down for breakfast, they were upset because it's not what they expected. LOL, they complained to my manager because they had to make coffee in their rooms and heaven forbid they didn't want to do that. Ooh, and even at check-in the wife asked me if since there's no housekeeping how are we supposed to get clean sheets. Like lady, you're only staying here for 4 nights. Anyways, they complained and said they were cutting their stay short and heading over to a full service. I said okay cool, least we don't have to hear her complain every day, LOL. I feel for that hotel. Anyway, while all this commotion was going on, this lady all masked up yelled at us and said Colorado doesn't require you to wear masks? I said back to her no they do not. She continues with well they should. Listen Linda, I just work here lady, don't yell at me because the government is mandating face masks. You have a problem, take it up with the mayor and go back to where you came from. Goodness, this morning was annoying. Well, this happened a few hours ago. It's 4th of July, and me and my GF decided we should bake a s'mores flavored pie. So we go out to the closest supermarket, buy all the ingredients we need, and we come back home and get ready to get cracking. Everything is going great. We baked the base crust, then we added the chocolate and melted that a bit in the oven, then we added a layer of marshmallows and melted them in the oven, and lastly we added a cookie crumble top to cover up the marshmallow. As the delicious looking pie is nearing completion, I think to myself, hey, it would be even better if the cookie crumble got a little toasted and crunchy. I know what I'll do, I'll switch the oven to broil on high, put the pie up on the top shelf of the oven, and let it crisp up for 2 minutes. Meanwhile my GF thinks I'm being extra since the pie is basically done, so she walks out to wait for my little final touch. Fast forward to 30 seconds later, I'm sitting on the kitchen counter waiting on my phone when I smell something burning. I look into the oven and the top cookie crumble crust is charcoal back and smoke is coming off of it. I freak out, immediately turn the oven off and open the oven to pull out the pie. This is where the flip up happened. As soon as I opened the oven door, oxygen must have flooded into the oven and the entire top of the pie caught fire. I instantly thought oh flip and closed the oven door, but it was too late. Fire was licking the entire roof of the oven and smoke was coming out from the door. I ran to my dad, OBTW this was at my parents' house, and said the oven's on fire, where's the fire extinguisher? He told me they had one upstairs, so I ran up the stairs, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and ran back down the stairs. As I ran back into the kitchen, my dad was spraying the oven with an extinguisher already, turns out he remembered there was another one downstairs. Well, the fire department still showed up, 3 fire trucks, even though the alarms never went off, but I guess they still have to check it out. Great 4th of July celebration. Now I have to spend the rest of the day cleaning every surface and everything in the kitchen of this fine powdery extinguisher dust. TL, Doctor tried to bake a s'mores flavored pie for 4th of July and nearly burned down my parents' kitchen. When I was in elementary school, I had a friend, let's call her Sarah. Sarah was from Newfoundland, Canada, and had moved to Texas. Sarah was almost completely deaf, and wore a cochlear implant in one ear. She was still quite significantly working on her speech at the time, so she had what some would refer to as a deaf voice. After she moved back, we lost contact since we were so little. It wasn't until years later that I somehow, in conversation with another deaf friend, realized that for the entire time I knew Sarah, despite me knowing she was almost completely deaf without her implants, I literally thought that she just had a Canadian accent, and that all people from that part of Canada naturally spoke like that. It didn't help that her mother, who was also deaf, spoke in a similar way. Looking back, I think literally everyone else knew she spoke like that because she was deaf. We just got along really well and her deafness meant a little to me that I just never even thought it through. It's not something like I thought for years that anyone who was deaf was Canadian, but was one of those moments where I just realized I was a dumb kid. I spent literal years not putting two and two together, mostly because I didn't think about Sarah and her deafness much at all, even though I knew that Canadians don't sound like that, and that deafness affects speech. And #X200B. DL, Doctor, my childhood has thought that all Canadians sounded like my deaf friend, and that's just the Canadian way.